As the fallout from the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively incident continues to worsen, Ryan Reynolds is now joining the conversation. Ryan, how are things going? Fantastic. Why? Have you heard anything? Ryan allegedly sent Justin Baldoni a message that has everyone talking, and if the rumors are accurate, it could spell the end for both Ryan's and Blake's careers. We're dissecting Ryan Reynolds' remarks in this video and explaining why they have the potential to revolutionize the world. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni collaborated on the 2024 movie It Ends With Us, which is based on Colleen Hoover's wildly successful book about trauma and domestic abuse, because the ideal image breaks. With a global box office total of $351 million, 0 cents, it did fairly well. That's like winning the lottery and then having an extra $20, 0 cents in your pocket. America's alleged sweetheart Blake Lively played the lead role of Lily Bloom, a character who escapes an abusive relationship while Baldoni co-starred and directed. However, what should have been a fruitful collaboration quickly devolved into a total disaster. I need to talk to your manager. We're talking about lawsuits flying back and forth like tennis balls at Wimbledon, reputations breaking like iPhones that have been dropped, and careers possibly burning to the ground. It's that awful. Let's go back a little and examine the beginning of this entire drama. Blake appeared more focused on promoting her Blake Brown hair care line than she did on talking about the film's somber themes while on the It Ends With Us press tour. Imagine trying to pitch your new line of glittery coffins to everyone at a funeral. Blake essentially brought that energy to the entire situation when Lively urged fans to, quote, wear your florals and grab your friends to see a movie about domestic violence. Like, hello, did she even read the script of the movie she was in? She sparked a lot of criticism on social media for her promotional strategy. Baldoni, meanwhile, was over there genuinely attempting to draw attention to the film's weighty themes, as if someone, I don't know, knew what it was about. Ships could have been able to navigate through fog because of the obvious disconnect. Although it seemed as though she was endorsing The Notebook 2 Electric Boogaloo rather than a movie about trauma, abuse, and survival, Blake's tone-deaf promotion wasn't the only thing that caused backlash. Receipts from the internet are longer than those from CVS. People began discussing her 2012 wedding at Boone Hall Plantation after purchasing chapstick. She and Reynolds were captivated by the antebellum charm of a former slave site, you know, on multiple bikes. Yikes. That would be equivalent to calling your honeymoon at Alcatraz prison chic. As if that weren't enough to make everyone cringe, there are some things that simply shouldn't be romanticized. In a nasty 2016 interview, she said, "Congratulations on your baby bump," in response to a thin, non-pregnant interviewer who was actually having infertility problems. Later, the interviewer disclosed that it almost caused her to resign from her position. Would you be able to tolerate such casual cruelty? That would be equivalent to saying to someone who recently lost a pet, "Oh, it's okay, just get another one." You just don't joke about some things. However, it seems that Blake did not receive that memo. In or out of the loop, Reddit users were having a great time with this. With almost 3,000 upvotes, a thread from August 23, 2024 painfully detailed the backlash. She was described by users as tone-deaf, mean girl, and totally detached from reality, among other things. Blake seemed to be trying out for a revival of her Gossip Girl persona. However, she was acting more like Blair Waldorf than Serena van der Woodsen. And in December 2024, the backstage drama came to a head when Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment and launching a smear campaign against her. According to the lawsuit, she accused him of causing a hostile work environment by making inappropriate remarks, making unwanted physical contact, and breaking into her trailer while she was undressed. Without an intimacy coordinator, Baldoni was allegedly improvising physical intimacy and including nude scenes. Additionally, she asserted that Baldoni hired Melissa Nathan and the agency group for a smear campaign after she complained, allegedly resulting in a 56% to 78% decline in sales of her hair care line. That would be equivalent to claiming that your soul fell because of your neighbor's loud music. To say the least, it's a stretch. I apologize, but are we really to assume that Justin Baldoni, who has literally made his name as a feminist supporter and advocate for women's rights, suddenly turned into a predator on this particular set? The same man who has podcasted about gender equality and delivered TED Talks about redefining masculinity? Let's talk about this purported smear campaign. Something about Death Valley smells fishier than week-old sushi left in the sun. Blake essentially accused Baldoni of being responsible for all of the negative comments she got on social media during the promotion. Have you thought, girl, that perhaps, just possibly, people were criticizing you because you were using themed cocktails named after the abusive character you named Riley to promote a story about domestic violence? Named after the story's violent boyfriend, huh? That would be equivalent to naming a cocktail with a Titanic theme, Iceberg Ahead, or a dessert with a 9/11 theme, Tower Crumble, and wondering why people find that offensive. Examine the space. Furthermore, Blake's marketing strategy for the movie was so completely out of character that it's difficult to think Baldoni had to plan anything against her. She promoted a film about abuse while laughing about her hair products on talk shows? Bevel. It would be equivalent to appearing on Jimmy Fallon to discuss your new eyeshadow palette while purporting to be promoting a human trafficking documentary. With Baldoni's assistance, the backlash was unavoidable. In all honesty, Baldoni's response was the epitome of not playing around, as he categorically denied these accusations. He brought a $400 million zero-cents defamation suit against Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist on January 16, 2025. That's a standing ovation and a whole symphony of applause, not just a simple clapback. Bringing a nuclear weapon to a knife fight is analogous to that. Playing games in his countersuit was not Baldoni's purpose. Baldoni presented the dispute as one of creative control rather than harassment. He asserted that Lively and Reynolds were plotting his destruction, and that they fabricated amicable exchanges in order to influence the course of the movie. In essence, he is claiming that they attempted to take over his film and became enraged when he refused to give them control. When someone tries to take your wheel while you're driving and you refuse to let them cause an accident, they call the police. And Baldoni didn't stop there. In addition, he filed a $250 million zero-cents libel suit against the New York Times for an article that claimed he had launched a public relations campaign against Lively. He claimed that the article ignored evidence that contradicted Lively's claims and instead relied on selectively chosen and modified communications. I genuinely live for this level of I won't be silenced energy, and this man was on a lawsuit binge. The way Lively's team obtained text messages through a covert lawsuit filed on September 27, 2024, through Lively's company Vanzin Inc. is among the most astounding parts of this entire story. This gave her the opportunity to subpoena Stephanie Jones, Baldoni's former publicist, and request documents pertaining to Lively and Baldoni. Baldoni's lawyer referred to this action as an abuse of process, and legal experts characterize it as extremely dubious. Who even does that, really? That's some cunning on par with that of a gossip girl. However, this is real life and not a television program. It's similar to stealing someone's journal and using it as proof in court. Although you technically possess the information, it is highly doubtful how you obtained it. Even more troubling is the fact that this covert lawsuit was dropped on December 19, 2024, one day prior to Lively's sexual harassment complaint. The timing is so flawless that you start to question whether everything was planned out beforehand. It's similar to throwing a lavish surprise party and then feigning surprise when everyone leaves. Blake, we can see right through the act. Baldoni's career suffered an instantaneous and severe blow. His talent agency, WME, fired him a few hours after Lively's lawsuit was made public. Liz Plank ceased co-hosting Vital Voices' Man Enough podcast, and the company revoked an award they had given him. It seems as though the industry found him guilty before he could even say, "Wait, that's not what happened." Discuss the social media trial. Celebrities like Jenny Slate, her Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants co-stars Colleen Hoover, the author of the book Michelle Marone Brandon Sleenar, and even Amber Heard, who spoke about Hollywood elites circling the wagons, were supporting Lively in the meantime. When the prom queen turns everyone against the class president because he won't let her pick the dance's theme, it's like watching a high school popularity contest. That is the most intriguing aspect of the entire circumstance. Knowing what actually transpired on that set is nearly impossible. Were there real cases of wrongdoing? Is this another instance of Hollywood's whisper networks determining someone's guilt before all the facts are known? Or was this merely a power struggle over creative control? It's similar to attempting to solve a murder mystery in which all parties have ulterior motives, and no one is being completely honest. We do know that the entire situation has brought up important issues regarding the balance of power in Hollywood, the influence of public opinion, and the speed at which reputations can be ruined in the social media era. although it serves as a warning that even the most meticulously constructed public persona can collapse in an instant, leaving lives and careers in ruins. There is more to this drama than meets the eye. Deadpool's involvement with Ryan Reynolds turns this story from a mess to utter chaos. Do you recall the release of Deadpool and Wolverine in July 2024? On the surface, Reynolds himself portrayed the character Nicepool in the film. Perceptive viewers, and more significantly, Baldoni's legal team, saw some very specific similarities between Nicepool and Justin Baldoni that simply couldn't be coincidence. Nicepool appeared to be just another multiversal version of Deadpool, similar to the alligator version of Loki, but less scaly and more passive-aggressive. It seems as though Reynolds wasn't even attempting to be nuanced. He could have just as easily given the character the name Justin Baldoni and stopped there. Using parallels like a man bun, feminist identity, and particular dialogue that could have just as easily had neon arrows pointing at him, for example, Baldoni claims that Nice was a satirical portrayal of him. Good. Pulul says, I identify as a feminist and in a deleted scene states, I'd be fighting alongside you, but my calling is to one day start a podcast that monetizes the women's movement. In case you were unaware, this humorous coincidence is perfectly in line with Baldoni's podcast, Man Enough, which examines masculinity and gender roles. Not in my opinion. Creating a character who declares, I'm going to launch a makeup line called Kylic and pretend it's not about Kylie Jenner is equivalent to that. Ryan, we see you. There are more parallels than that. Baldoni has previously worn a man bun, which Nice wears. Similar to Baldoni's public speaking style, he speaks in an excessively earnest and sincere tone. As Baldoni is being accused of, he portrays himself as the ideal ally of women while being unbearably self-righteous about it. Given how clear the similarities are, Nice might as well have been given a name tag that read, not Justin Baldoni. Link. But hold on, it gets hotter. Baldoni's lawyer claims that the Nice exchange with Lady, played by Blake Lively, includes remarks about her postpartum figure that reaffirm claims that Baldoni fat-shamed Lively in the scene. Lady is told by Nice, "You look fantastic." Given that Lively's complaint against Baldoni allegedly included worries about her weight for a lift scene, this question, how long ago did you have your babies, seems harmless enough. The entire Nicepool scandal wasn't a one-off joke. Rather, it was interwoven into the film, with several sequences that appeared to be intended to make fun of Baldoni. Additionally, keep in mind that this film was being made and filmed prior to the public release of the It Ends With Us drama. It seems as though Reynolds saw the feud in the future in a crystal ball, or more likely, tensions were building behind the scenes long before the lawsuit was filed. Given Reynolds' nationality, some fans and media outlets attempted to defend the character by arguing that Nicepool was simply a representation of Canadian politeness. Come on, that's like saying a basketball fan founded a tequila company with the initials LJ isn't LeBron James, it's just a generic representation of an athlete. The proof that Reynolds was making fun of Baldoni through his character is pretty damning. The fact that Reynolds' team has never publicly refuted these allegations is even more telling. Rather, they have insisted that Baldoni's indignation is superficial. Is that not precisely a denial? Yeah, we did it, so what is more accurate? Not able to handle a joke? Calling someone dramatic for being upset about their broken phone is the celebrity equivalent of pushing them into a swimming pool. In an interview with People magazine, Baldoni's thin-skinned indignation over the Nicepool character was telling, according to Reynolds' spokesperson. And it says a lot about Baldoni's character. It's as near to an admission as you can get without actually saying, yes, we were totally mocking him. It would be equivalent to saying, well, you shouldn't have left it in the fridge if you didn't want it eaten, in response to the question, did you eat my cake? We are all aware of what that implies. The drama is elevated to a whole new level by this whole pleasant pool scenario. It implies that tensions between Baldoni and Reynolds Lively may have existed for a long time before the It Ends With Us drama became widely known. Were they getting ready to defeat him already? Was this the most literal form of character assassination? It's similar to watching a Wars prequel. Before the first shot is fired, you can see how every component is being moved into position. Reynolds then brought up the legal drama once more in a Quanda session during the SNL 50th anniversary special in February 2025. Great, why? What have you heard? Was Reynolds' response when asked how he was doing. Many people took this remark to be a reference to the ongoing legal dispute, and Blake's unexpected response only served to stoke the flames. Blake's facial expression caused social media to go viral more quickly than a cat video. Delenthe, a user on X, formerly Twitter, wrote, "Blake Lively's face speaks for itself. It's a Ryan Reynolds made that joke at SNL 50. She appears shocked. The timing is crazy." Ryan continues to joke around as if nothing is wrong with Justin Baldoni's defamation lawsuit against both of them. Thousands of people liked and retweeted the post, and they were analyzing Blake's response frame by frame as if it were the Zapruder movie, after Wally Ferriston, a veteran of SNL Cord, stated on an Australian radio show that Reynolds had a different line in rehearsal and that the joke was his idea. There was initial conjecture that Reynolds might have improvised the line. A representative for Saturday Night Live later clarified that the joke was pitched by SNL and never changed, indicating that it was pre-planned and Reynolds was fully aware and agreed to participate. This fueled theories that Reynolds was so comfortable mocking the situation that he'd go off script to do it. Therefore, he was completely in on the joke and using a national television appearance to make light of a serious legal battle involving allegations of sexual harassment. That would be equivalent to joking about your impending IRS audit during the annual meeting of your company. It's bold, risky, and demonstrates either a great deal of confidence or a complete disregard for the repercussions. To be honest, I don't know of anyone whose wife has experienced sexual harassment and has made jokes about that kind of situation, said Justin Baldoni's lawyer in response to the joke on Hot Mics with Billy Bush. What do you know? He has a point. What if Baldoni were making jokes about serious accusations against Reynolds and the roles were reversed? It would be a deafening outcry. It would resemble Harvey Weinstein making jokes about his accusers on Saturday Night Live. Internet usage would have skyrocketed. This double standard is so obvious that it could lead to sunburn. On national television, Reynolds can make light of a serious lawsuit and receive praise for his humor, but Baldoni is effectively banned from the business before his side of the story is even heard. Seeing a heavyweight boxer battle a kindergartner and questioning why the match seems unfair is similar to that. That's not all, though. Do you recall the text messages Lively's team was able to obtain through that dubious lawsuit? According to reports, Reynolds and Baldoni's initial exchanges were friendly, with pre-production text messages demonstrating mutual respect. Reynolds reportedly wrote in one of his messages to Baldoni, "I'm excited to work with you, man. Blake praises your vision for this project, but it seems that conflicts arose over artistic choices, like the removal of a lift sequence from the finished product, which Baldoni says was coerced by Lively and Reynolds." The personal aspect of their dispute is further enhanced by purported texts that depict Reynolds addressing Baldoni over remarks regarding Lively's weight. Reynolds reportedly sent a heated message that read, "We're going to have a serious problem if you ever comment on my wife's weight again," according to sources. This implies that animosity was already developing during the production process. The problem is that these texts were obtained through that dubious legal maneuver long before any lawsuits were filed, and Baldoni claims they were cherry-picked and taken out of context to portray him in the worst possible light. According to his March 18, 2025 legal filing, it's misleading at best and manipulative at worst because it only shows the angry portion of a text conversation without revealing what initially sparked it. Specifically referring to the nice pool character in Deadpool and Wolverine, Reynolds attempted to have Baldoni's claims dismissed, claiming that they were founded on hurt feelings and lacked legal support. Being offended by a character in a movie is not grounds for a lawsuit, his attorneys wrote, omitting the fact that the character appeared to have been created specifically to make fun of Baldoni. I can give it a lot, but if you ask me, I can't handle the energy. In response, Baldoni's legal team called Reynolds Lively's co-conspirator and claimed he was a key player in escalating the conflict. In an attempt to prevent Reynolds' termination, they filed documents on April 1, 2025, claiming that Reynolds is not an innocent bystander in this situation, but an active participant in the campaign to defame and extort Baldoni. And to be honest, they might be right, given the endearing pool character and the SNL joke. Let's stand back and examine the true situation at hand. One of Hollywood's most influential actors, Ryan Reynolds, has a net worth in the hundreds of millions of dollars. He uses his position to make fun of Baldoni on Saturday Night Live, as well as in Deadpool and Wolverine. We have Baldoni defending his career and reputation against two of Hollywood's most powerful individuals, and Blake Lively employing dubious legal means to obtain private communications. In contrast to the biblical tale, David appears to be losing this time around when he faces off against not one, but two Goliaths. Could this entire situation be exactly what Baldoni says? There may be some truth to that, given Lively and Reynolds' deliberate attempt to take over It Ends With Us and ruin his reputation when he refused to accept the evidence. It's similar to watching Mean Girls in real life, but with larger bank accounts and higher stakes. Consider it. Lively received backlash for her tone-deaf marketing of the domestic abuse movie. Accusing the director of wrongdoing is a great way to divert criticism, and having your famous husband support you and even make fun of your target in his multi-billion-dollar franchise movie is a great way to make sure people believe you. It's the quintessential Hollywood power move. Crush someone who is weaker than you using your connections, influence, and public persona. And it worked. Baldoni lost both his podcast co-host and representation awards. Before he even had an opportunity to defend himself, his reputation was badly tarnished. It's essentially unjust and potentially disastrous, similar to being found guilty before your trial has even begun. Additionally, the timeline is suspiciously convenient. In August 2024, Lively received criticism for promoting It Ends With Us. By December, she was accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment. She had gathered text messages and other correspondence in the interim through a covert lawsuit. Everything appears to be carefully thought out, like a chess player planning several moves in advance. Reynolds' involvement transforms this from a straightforward case of he said, she said, to one that is more intricate and possibly sinister. His readiness to make fun of Baldoni on SNL and in Deadpool and Wolverine shows a level of coordination that goes beyond merely providing for his wife. They seem to be tag-teaming Baldoni, striking him from all sides as he makes a valiant effort to defend himself. The disparity in power is glaring. Both Reynolds and Lively have enormous fan bases and are considered Hollywood royalty. Significant wealth and powerful friends. Despite his own success, Baldoni just lacks the same amount of influence. It's similar to watching a heavyweight boxer face off against someone who is 2 weight classes lighter. The result seems to be decided just by the mismatch. This is not to suggest that Baldoni is completely innocent, we just don't know what transpired on that set. However, the way this whole situation has developed, with Lively using dubious legal tactics to gather evidence, Reynolds making fun of him in a popular film before any accusations were made public, and the industry turning on Baldoni without hearing his side, indicates that there may be more to this story than first appears. The fallout from the industry and the truth behind the feud. Let's start by discussing how swiftly the industry turned against Baldoni following Lively's accusation. And while the conversation seemed just interested in former district's debate, to see how Tool on the Hall movie Liz Plank stopped co-hosting his Man Enough podcast on December 23rd, and Vital Voices revoked his award on December 24th. That's a stampede, not justice. Seeing someone thrown overboard and everyone vying to be the first to toss them an anchor rather than a life preserver is like that. Contrast that with the treatment of other celebrities who have been accused of wrongdoing. Some people are given months or even years to wait and see. But before Baldoni could even make a formal statement, the court of public opinion effectively found him guilty. It is giving the impression that one is guilty until proven innocent, which is not how things should operate. It would be similar to if your group of friends accused you of stealing someone's lunch from the office refrigerator without even checking to see if you were present in the building on that particular day. Baldoni's accusations of being singled out by Hollywood elites are entirely consistent with the speed at which the industry turned its back on him. Could this reaction have been planned by the Lively Reynolds power couple using their significant influence? It's definitely a question worth asking given how fast everyone fell in line. I mean, consider it. A-list stars Reynolds and Lively have connections all over Hollywood. Disney has made billions from the Deadpool franchise alone. Since Gossip Girl, Lively has been a Hollywood darling. The two of them are like the prom king and queen, while Baldoni is more like the president of the student council, respected but not nearly as well liked or influential. The industry pays attention when two of Hollywood's most adored stars criticize someone. It's similar to when the popular high school kids decide someone is no longer cool. All of a sudden, nobody wants to eat lunch with them. However, the ramifications of the industry extend beyond Baldoni's career. In Hollywood, it's not just about who you eat lunch with. It's about careers, reputations, and millions of dollars. The negative aspects of Hollywood power dynamics have been made clear by this entire ordeal. On December 20, 2024, just before the holiday break, when many in the industry would be off work and unable to respond or look into the matter right away, Lively filed her lawsuit. Did that timing just happen, or was it a deliberate attempt to steer the conversation during a slow news cycle? A traditional public relations strategy is to make shocking accusations just before a significant holiday. It's similar to ending a relationship just before someone goes on vacation because they don't have time to reply and the story is already decided when they return. Lively and her team have the advantage in influencing public opinion because of the timing, which guarantees maximum impact with little immediate backlash. Not to mention the dubious legal strategy used to obtain Baldoni's texts. On September 27, 2024, Lively's team secretly filed a lawsuit to subpoena Stephanie Jones, Baldoni's former publicist, via a business owned by Lively called Van Dan Inc. One day prior to Lively's formal complaint on December 19, 2024, this lawsuit was withdrawn. Discuss strategic legal maneuvering. Legal professionals characterized this action as extremely dubious, and Baldoni's lawyer referred to it as an abusive procedure. To be honest, it does appear to be very cunning and dishonest. Unless they are attempting to make a case without the other person knowing, who would do something like that? It's similar to searching through someone's trash for dirt. You may discover something, but how you obtained it reveals a lot about who you are. Screenshots of texts, emails, and court documents were included in what Baldoni referred to as the full, unvarnished truth when he launched his website on February 1st, 2025. His version of events is supported by statements from those who worked on the movie and a thorough timeline of events on the website. Like publishing your diary to prove you didn't steal the cookies. It's a daring move, but it also demonstrates how desperate he is to offer his version of events in a world that seems to have already found him guilty. Shortly after, the Lively counter website with a similar URL but completely different content surfaced. It contains quotes from anonymous crew members, links to Lively supporting articles, and a section called Pattern of Behavior that makes an effort to connect Baldoni's current predicament to previous court cases. The fact that the website's developers are anonymous only serves to deepen the mystery surrounding this already complex tale. It's unnerving and impossible to reply to directly for Lively, like receiving an anonymous letter outlining all of your shortcomings. Her accusations came at a convenient moment to divert attention from the backlash she was receiving for her tone-deaf endorsement of a domestic violence movie. All of a sudden, she was receiving victim support rather than criticism. She had a financial incentive to change the narrative because her hair care sales reportedly fell from 56% to 78% as a result of the backlash. It's like when a politician gets involved in a scandal and then declares they have cancer. All of a sudden, everyone forgets about the scandal and concentrates on helping them get better. Traditional misdirection. The criticism directed at Lively was severe. On April 17, 2025, Monica Iglesias, a former Twitter user, wrote on X, "The worst choice ever, in my opinion, was casting Blake Lively as Lily Bloom." It ends with us Lively allegedly stepped in and unprofessionally overreached, garnering over 23,000 views, according to another Barkjack user. Lively needed a strategy to change the public's perception because the criticism was unrelenting. What better way for her to pretend that Baldoni is harassing her? This conflict doesn't seem to have many benefits. His years of cultivated feminist credentials were questioned, his reputation was tarnished, and he lost representation. If he was using this as a power move, it backfired horribly. It would be equivalent to starting a small fire to get insurance money and unintentionally destroying the entire neighborhood. Any possible advantage is greatly outweighed by the consequences. That brings this story to a close. Click on the cards on your screen to see more captivating tales like this one.